actually wanted to start off our chat with a video that I thought would be like a perfect prompt for our discussion. It kind of speaks to a lot of the things that we're going to be talking about. And just to make sure everyone, I'm sure you guys all know what I'm talking about. I'm talking about an FBI raid that everyone is talking about. It's in the news constantly. I know it's on everyone's mind. So let's take a look at this video.
My message is so easy. I am not Dr. Evil.
Not Dr. Evil, but this man, Alexander Yanov, has been charged and sanctioned by the US government for working with the FSB, Russian intelligence, to infiltrate American political movements.
Yanov and his Russian government co-conspirators engaged in a malign influence campaign to sow discord, spread propaganda, and interfere in elections within the United States.
The federal indictment describes what it only calls US Political Group 1 as being co-opted by Yanov. The description of the group leads to Omale Yeshitela. Are you an agent of Russia?
Please. I mean, it's a really insulting question.
Yeshitela is a lifelong activist and is the chairman of the African People's Socialist Party. And now, in the eyes of the US government, he is an unindicted co-conspirator in a Russian plot to undermine American democracy.
And they put a zip tie on my wrist, and they wanted me to sit on the curb.
He has not been charged, but his home here in St. Louis was raided by the FBI in late July.
Some people see it as a badge of honor to be attacked by the United States government when you're involved in the struggle for freedom. It's attacked every struggle for freedom. Mandela was a terrorist. Martin Luther King was spied on.
The Justice Department alleges Yanov funded a campaign run by Yeshitela's group in 2016.
I can't even entertain a discussion seriously about Russian interference or something. I'm an agent of Russia. I've been doing this all my life, and I've been doing it all my life because of America, not Russia. Before I ever met a Russian, this is what I was doing.
Yeshitela strongly denies taking instructions from Yanov. Yeshitela did travel to Russia in 2015 for a gathering of separatist groups from around the world. That event was organized by Yanov's group, the Anti-Globalization Movement of Russia. The US Justice Department says that group receives funds from the Russian government and is tied to the FSB, Russian intelligence.
This is a bullshit. I'm sorry. I'm not the project FSB. I'm the activist. I'm the president of Anti-Globalization Movement of Russia. We have the many members.
Russia's alleged involvement with American activist groups is nothing new.
Demonstrations by anti-nuclear groups have been intensifying. President Reagan has suggested that some of the demonstrations are encouraged, even supported by the Soviet Union.
From the Soviet era to today, in 2018, Special Counsel Robert Mueller's investigation found that Russian trolls had been supporting groups on both sides of the US political divide through social media.
I'm 80 years old. I've lived in America all my life. I don't need any Russians to inform me of my conditions, and I'm the leader of a remarkable revolutionary organization that's intent on having freedom for my people. I don't need a Russian.
And Donny O'Sullivan joins us now. Donny, what other political groups or movements have been targeted here?
Yeah, well, what we've known down through the years, John, from what the DOJ and other US agencies has dug up, is Russia likes to play both sides in the US. We've seen them, in the run-up to the 2016 election here, playing the far right and the far left. In this instance, you saw them targeting a black liberation group there in St. Louis and in Florida. Also, according to the indictment, they say the Russians were promoting a California secession movement, so a group that is promoting for California to leave the United States. It's all very much typical of the Russian playbook, but as you can see there, it has real impact, real effect in the United States.
And to be clear, Homeland Security, FBI, everyone is warned that the Russians still do want to get involved in the systems here in the United States. Donny O'Sullivan, thank you so much for your reporting. Terrific analysis.
Okay. So I saw that you had tweeted about this, Dr. CBS. And you kind of can't make this up, but what are your thoughts on this news story?
Yeah, I'm just cackling at the man saying, thank you for that excellent analysis. That was basic bitchery, excuse my language, but it was the most superficial and, non-insightful analysis. But anyway, so, I write about like the Black scare and the Red scare, and I feel like this is very much sort of part of that formation, because a lot of the Red Scare historically, a great deal of that energy has focused on foreign influence or outside agitation, specifically on the Negroes, right? Specifically on, there was a deep concern about outside agitators or foreign influences, like riling up the Blacks and inciting them to revolution. And this is for a number of reasons. Number one is because Black citizenship has been questionable at best, right? The idea that because Black people are docile and childlike and, outside of reason and rationality, they are necessarily susceptible to outside influence. And, it's also comes to this kind of Southern idea that, the Blacks were happy with their lot. It was when the white carpetbaggers came, and then later on, right, the Germans, and then the Russians, the Cubans, all of these other outside groups are the ones that had to tell Black people that they were suffering, right? They are the ones that sort of implanted this false idea into the heads of Black folks that they were oppressed, as if we didn't know. And so, Yeshitela, he mentions this, right? He's like, I lived here all my life. I don't need any Russian to tell me about my conditions. And it's very, very rich, right? Because as we know, the U.S. astroturfs all of these protests, all of these uprisings all over the world. They overthrow government after government. They cripple sovereign nations through sanctions and blockades. And so it's asinine to make this accusation that, in the year of our Lord, 2022, that the Black folks need the Russians. Now, whether or not they're receiving money is inconsequential, right? This is like, the other thing that we need to think about is that this is an attack on internationalism, right? As internationalist solidarity has seen an uptick, whether it's around Palestine or Cuba or Venezuela, this is an attack on internationalism and making it seem like any sort of international solidarity or any sort of international network that's critical of the United States is subversive, is a threat to national security. And this is ashy, musty, old analysis in like a new bottle. And so, it's very goofy. And you'll notice at the end of the broadcast, the man asked, what other organizations have been targeted? And the answer is none, right? I think he said there was some random separatist organization, but I think that it's not insignificant that it was the Black ass APSP that was targeted, right? And so this is why it's not only just McCarthyism, it's not only just the Red Scare, it's also the Black Scare, right? And that both anti-radicalism and sort of anti-Black racial oppression are embedded in the United States, such that these two are so often like thought together.
Right. It's like the double threat.
Exactly.
Right. I mean, we don't hear this happening with DSA.
Right.
I mean, who knows? Like, it's too soon, and that we know of, right? But certainly not the FBI raid. It's funny watching all the MAGA people freak out about the Trump FBI raid. It would be amazing if they also spoke out about this. But for some reason, I don't think they were that concerned.
Mm-hmm. And you see, and so what's interesting, right, is that it's basically part of this rhetoric that actually many, liberals partake in, that the so-called far left, which APSP would be considered that because they're actually socialists, they're not these welfare capitalists, whatever, right? Bernie people, no offense to the Bernie people. But anyway, and so it's this idea that the far left and the far right are the same. And this is where this discourse, so we see this rise in discourse about authoritarianism, right? The idea of authoritarianism is a sort of offshoot of red fascism. This idea of red fascism that sort of arose in the 1930s after the so-called Stalin-Hitler Pact, and the idea of red fascism is that, the communists and the fascists are essentially the same. They're of the same character.
The horseshoe theory.
Exactly. And so this is more of the same, where it's like because the FBI is attacking the so-called far left and the far right, in the mind of the average, ignorant, highly propagandized, illiterate American public, U.S. public, these are one and the same. And so it's also doing that type of work as well.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. And so much, we see that again and again. I mean, even with like the Forward Party, like Andrew Yang's party, their shtick is that like, we're not going to be the extremists of the Democrats or the Republicans. The idea that the Democrats are some left-wing equivalent of the Republicans, like as if they're as far from the center as the Republicans are, is just really dangerous and just shifts everything to the right.